I'm William Jackson, and I've been a landscape contractor for over 30 years. And I wanted to share some tips with you that I've learned along the way. But let's start with basic planting. As you can see, I've got 5 different plants here: anise, pink drift rose, big blue hydrangea, a wintergreen Japanese boxwood, and a cleyera. So let's start with the cleyera. The first thing you want to do is be careful in how you handle a plant. The big mistake that people make is they grab the plants by the trunk and the branches and they lift it up. Then you're carrying all this weight of the root ball from those branches and stems, and it's not meant to do that. They can't support that weight. So you're always best to handle the plant by the container. And that goes along with the planting. When you go to remove the plant from the container, you don't want to grab it by the trunk and pull, like a tug of war situation. Again, you're loosening the trunk and the root ball and doing potential damage to the plant. So the best thing to do is to lay the container over on its side, maybe pat it a little bit. The weight of the root ball is sitting on the ground, not the branches and stems, and you can softly pull the plant out this way. And then also when you're planting a plant, you want to be careful that you don't have this root growth that's become intertwined and locked together. The best way to do this is to actually scrape it and loosen it with your fingertips. You see a lot of people, even landscapers, that'll take a shovel and stab the plant. This is something you don't want to do. It actually damages the root system. Basically, all you're doing is trying to unravel this tight root growth so it'll grow better into the ground. Okay. Now we'll start with digging the hole. You always want to dig your hole a little larger than the root ball. This helps not only facilitate loosening up the soil around the plant, but it also helps you pack soil around the plant when you're finishing up the planting. One mistake you don't want to make is to ever plant a plant too deep. As a matter of fact, it's always best to be a little bit on the high side, even if it's only slightly, but just never too deep. So when I got the hole down to about the approximate depth I think it should be, I'm going to place the plant into the hole and check my depth and be sure it's right. Okay, that should be approximately right. Now let's check our depth. Again, I'm going to grab the plant by the root ball, not the stems and branches. I'm going to simply set it in the hole. And I'm checking my depth. This looks very good because, as you can see, the plant, the top of the root ball is not lower than the existing grade. If anything, it's slightly higher. Another thing that's very important before you proceed with your planting is to be sure the bottom of your hole is compacted and flat. This is because you don't want any air pockets underneath the root ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch around here a little bit and pack that nice and firm, so the flat part of the root ball is sitting flat on the grade. Okay. Notice the hole slightly bigger than the root ball. This is going to facilitate me backfilling. As you can see, I can pull in the soil, I can get my hands in here, and I can start packing the soil. There's 2 different ways that you can do this. I prefer to do it with my hands and fingertips because I can actually feel where I need to backfill and where the soil is loose. So this just works better for me. However, another method could be to actually take the bottom of the shovel handle and you can pack around the root ball as well. This actually works better with larger trees, which I'll be doing another video on. So we're backfilling. It's always a good rule of thumb when you plant a plant at the correct depth, you don't have any soil left over. In other words, you don't want to plant a plant and then remove soil away from the hole. I'm going to continue to pack in. Okay. Now something else that's very important is you never want to have any soil that you've added on top of the existing root ball. See, this is the original top of the root ball here. I have no soil added on top of it. All the backfill is out to the side. And notice when I backfilled the root ball, I softly sloped it away, back contouring back up to the top of that root ball. Okay, that's all the basic principles of how to plant a plant. Now I'm going to proceed and plant the other four as an example of how to do it again. Bottom of my hole is flat, compacted. Handle the plant by the container. Loosen it up. This is a very compacted root ball, but as you can see, my fingers can break it up. I don't need to use a cutting tool or a shovel to do that. Okay. We check our depth. Again, that's about right, just slightly higher than the level grade surrounding it. Now I'm going to backfill with my fingertips. I'm going to backfill the root ball, slightly dome it away. When I'm planting trees, I use water rings. With basic shrubbery, it's not really necessary. But with the trees, I always do. That's our anise. Now let's go to our wintergreen Japanese boxwood. Here we go. Same basic principles. I can tell this plant's very root bound by how tight it is in the container. Look at that. Extremely root bound. For something like this, I'm going to use a little cutting tool to assist me, as my fingertips really can't break into that. This works good. Actually, irrigation cutters. But I want to slightly drag this vertically. See the roots kind of breaking away? I'm not doing much damage, because my fingernails can't do that. Across the bottom a little. Notice I'm only cutting vertically. I never cut horizontally. I don't want to kill all these long roots. I just want to separate them. That's why I'm cutting softly vertically, to help loosen that up. Okay, now my fingertips can get in there. See that? Now they're all loosening up nicely. Okay, go back to the hole, test my depth. Now this looks like it might be slightly low. So you never want to plant a plant low. So I'm going to take it back out, add a slight layer of soil, compact it really good so we don't have any air pockets. Sit it back in, check again. That's much better. Slightly higher than the existing grade, but not much. Okay, I'm going to pull my soil in, pack with my fingertips. Not put any soil on top of the root ball again. Don't be afraid to get dirty when you're planting plants. boxwood or wintergreen Japanese boxwood. No soil on top of the root ball. It's perfect. Now, big leaf hydrangea. This is actually a Nico blue hydrangea. Okay. Big leaf plants typically require a little bit more water. So on a new landscape, we're always prone to do additional hand watering with plants like hydrangeas that are fancias that have large leaves. Yeah. Upper bottom. Handle our plant by the container. This doesn't feel like it's a very tight root ball. Slightly pull it out. Again, break it with my fingertips. I don't need to use a shovel. Check my depth. Now this looks a little high. So we're going to take a little more soil out of the hole. Okay. Should be close right there. Yeah, that's perfect. As you can see, the root ball is just slightly above the existing grade surrounding it. Very slightly. Never low. It's better to be a little too high than it is too low. You don't want to smother the roots and stunt their growth. Okay, I'm feeling around the top of the root ball. I want to be sure I have no soil on top of it. And softly check my grade around the edge. That's good. Notice with all these plantings, there's no additional soil left on top of the ground that I have to haul away. One of my favorite plants, pink drift rose. You can't go wrong with the drift rose. Should be real close right there. Check the bottom. Okay. This doesn't have much of a root system at all. So I'm going to be very, very careful with it. Set it in the hole. All right, the grade looks perfect. This is a rose that has thorns, so I'll slightly lift up on the branches with one hand as I'm backfilling with the other. I don't want to break the branches, and I don't want to stick my hand and fingers with thorns. So you can slightly lift up with your forearm and then backfill with the other hand. Okay, that's a basic principles of how to install shrubbery. Like I said, it's a little different with trees, and trees will be my next video. Thank you. All right. What you don't want to do when you're backfilling a plant is stab the shovel blade into the ground. First, this is not really packing anything. See, it's just slicing into the soil. It's not packing at all. Another thing you don't want to do is take the heel of your boot or shoe and start stomping on the plant. You're going to beat up the root ball when you do that. It's easier to do, and I'm having to correct my crew all the time about that. But you can stomp a plant to death and actually loosen and weaken the root ball very easily. So again, it's best to come in and use your fingertips or your end of your shovel handle as a packing tool. Okay. That's it. That's what you need.